Welcome into the Sources Say podcast, your go-to Kentucky basketball podcast on the KSR Podcast Network, presented by Club Blue. Club Blue is the official collective partner of the University of Kentucky. I am your host, Jack Pilgrim of Kentucky Sports Radio. Very excited to be joined once again by Shawn Smith. Shawn, how the heck are you?
I'm fantastic, Jack Pilgrim. How are you?
I'm great. I'm doing great. Unnecessary tension in BBN land lately, the last 24 hours with speculation and concern and sky is falling, Chicken Little stuff. So we just got to, we need to use this opportunity to kind of reel some things in and kind of add some clarity and some context and just kind of get to the bottom. Because look, this is the last week, Shawn, of summer workouts. The kids are leaving. The last practice wraps up on August 7th, and the team is leaving this weekend. The gym will be empty this weekend to kind of hit reset, to refresh a little bit before coming back at the end of the month for the start of the fall semester. So we need to transition out of this period on a positive note. And there's just a few too many things that I think have been added to the docket that I think have added too much unnecessary stress to that. So that's what this is going to be here for. We're going to add all the confirm, deny, add content, necessary context, things that fans need to know about some of the bigger storylines today, plus a massive Q&A that we got on KS Board, bunch of questions that fans have been asking. Make sure you go subscribe to KS Board so you can participate in things like this, where your questions can be read right here on the show. Got a ton of very, very good ones. So a lot to talk about, but first and foremost, Shawn, I think what has stolen the attention of BBN over the last 24 hours is Bootgate. Once again, we've had PJ Washington, we've had Reed Travis, we go down the list of Jared Vanderbilt, Terrence Clark, every player that we've had come through Kentucky wearing a boot. And here we are again, Kentucky's best player, the superstar, the high dollar NIL returnee, the preseason All-American. He's wearing a boot, Shawn. Are we concerned? I'm not. I'm here to tell you he's fine. I checked in with people all day long, and it was kind of a little concerning to start with because the responses were kind of slow initially. And I was like, let's hope that this isn't a, like everybody has been sworn to secrecy with this. And I don't know if Shawn's frozen or if I'm frozen. Steven, if it's me, please let me know. But hopefully it's just Shawn.
You guys both are good.
We're both good. All right. He's frozen on my screen. So maybe but okay. I think we're good. But yeah, so there was like a little slight concern of why is everybody being so secretive about this? Why is this so quiet? Is there actually something to it? And then the responses kind of came flooding in and they're like, nah, totally fine. Everything is all good. Just a minor thing, just wearing the boot out as a precaution. So nothing to be concerned about with Otega Oweh. Shawn, your thoughts on that? Your first reaction seeing Otega Oweh at the Dirt Bowl in Lexington wearing a boot? Were you nervous? Were you scared? Are you buying it? What's your immediate reaction to Bootgate 37.0, whatever version we are at this point?
First of all, I'm good, right? Because I never lost you there, so I don't know where. I don't think I froze on. Maybe, but as long as you can hear me. So
your audio is coming in clear for me. The video was kind of buffering a little bit. I just wanted to make sure it's good on my end. But yeah. if we're I hear you clear. So just go on. We're good.
I didn't panic because obviously we're still some distance away from it, and we know however whatever injuries, ankles, whatever, we know the precautionary reasons that guys go in boots, right? Like it happens all the time to lessen the load, the weight that you have on that foot or whatever the minor injury is. You see that all the time. I know that we've had guys that have rolled ankles and they've literally played a game on Tuesday and they've been on a boot on Wednesday, Thursday, then they played on Friday. So like when you see things like that, obviously, I mean, you get concerned just because it is Kentucky's star player and an all SEC, all American type player. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of it, Jack, is not very concerned about it, just because I wouldn't at this point. I don't think so.
Yeah, I totally agree. And what I think the bigger story that I was excited to talk to you about personally, Shawn, was he got invited to the Chris Paul / Jason Tatum Jordan camp out in Las Vegas this past weekend, where he's competing against Braden Smith and some Yaxel and some like all these high level college basketball superstars. And that was going to be kind of the storyline going in is, hey, how cool of an opportunity is it for him to be playing, Paolo Banchero, Chris Paul, pros right now that he was able to go up against in these pro runs out in Vegas. So that was going to be the storyline going into today, and then we have to talk about the boot gate, unfortunately. So all is good, all is fine. We can still talk about just how cool it was for him to go participate in that event, but unfortunately the Otega news as things stand is with the boot. But I think, Shawn, the bigger storyline with this picture in particular, good and bad, because Jaden Quaintance, that is him in the background right there, dunking a basketball out in public. But first of all, Jaden, buddy, you're in slides on concrete. Why? What are we doing? You have a torn ACL. You're recovering. Yes, I'm glad that things are going smoothly, and that's what we're looking for. We like that you're making positive growth, but why are you out in public dunking basketballs on concrete wearing slides and socks? Like, we gotta just not add unnecessary risk to this, where you are a very valuable piece to Kentucky's national championship puzzle, and we really can't afford to have any random stupid slip-ups because you just decided to dunk in the dirt bowl in Lexington while you're out with your friends. So love you, bud, but let's reel it in a little bit.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, like, do you have any concerns about Jaden Quaintance not being available by the time things really matter when you're seeing him out here dunking in slides? I mean, obviously the worry is you're in slides and you do something, but that was encouraging to at least see that he's out there. So you get both sides of this, right? You get the JQ side where you're like you feel really good, then you look at Oweh's boot. So I wonder how many people didn't notice Jaden Quaintance in the background of that and just saw a boot with Otega Oweh.
Well, what's funny is, like, people just thought that picture was AI, and that it was just this made up image. Oh, there's no, like, they run it through the AI detectors, and they said that it's not a real picture. It's like, it's kind of a little too, like, specific to be AI. Like, why would you have a picture of Jaden Quaintance and Otega Oweh out at a park, playing basketball, wearing exactly what they would be wearing, everything looking normal without the boot? Like, I just feel like that's a lot of work to put in for something that I just, it was real. It was always real. I get it. I understand the concern. I understand, but I feel like it's past PTSD. It is I'm so used to these boot gates just kind of screwing Kentucky over in the NCAA tournament, and the one piece missing from Kentucky's national championship run. All those things, I just feel like we get so worried about things like that. But we also have to remember that it's August 5th right now, and the season isn't until, practice doesn't even start till mid-September. Big Blue Madness isn't until October, and then the season doesn't officially tip off until November. So we have nothing but time at this stage. If anything, like, we got a whole month to work with. If players leave in 2 days, we got nothing but time for rehab and get sick. Like, if you have something to deal with right now, if you have a rolled ankle, if you have a whatever, deal with it right now, not this time next month or anything beyond that. So I'm good with that. I think, if you want to throw a Jaden Quaintance thing out there, continue to hear excellent things about his recovery, barring anything dumb like a setback at a park by dunking and slides or anything. So hopefully, but as things stand in the grand scheme of things, things are looking really good. I've written about it on KS Board several times, but he is trending in the right direction. Still a ton of optimism that, while I'm not expecting him to play for the very first game of the season, I think he could if he really if March Madness was November Madness, I think he would absolutely play and look fine doing it. But I do think that Mark Pope will view this as such a, you are so valuable to what we do, and the long-term trajectory of this season. We can't afford to rush you back just for the sake of saying that you started the first game of the season. I just don't think that's like the risk and reward of there is just not worthwhile. And I do think that he will be a mid-December ish return. If I had to put my money on it today, I'd say that Jaden Quaintance makes his debut as a Kentucky Wildcat in mid December or so. But he could play earlier. But I think that's overall good news and still continuing to trend that way as we get out of these summer workouts, Shawn.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing, right? Like a national championship's not won in game 1 or game 2 or game 3, right? Like that, we know that. Like to me, it's if you get him available in December and you kind of get his legs under him, and then you're ready to roll by SEC play, and you get into the meat of the schedule of what Kentucky's doing when it comes to building a resume. Now we know that there's tough games early that are going to test Kentucky, but this is where if he's not available, Jack, you're going to get some extended run for some other guys to kind of showcase their game and where they're going to be and try to carve out a role in a rotation. So no, I'm with you. Like I wouldn't expect it right there at the beginning. I think that's the safe approach because you don't want to rush what the payout's going to be long term for your team, and it can do more damage if you try to rush this thing back and then something happens, then you lose him for an extended period of time or maybe all the season if he's not ready to go. So sacrifice a few games there, get him ready. You got some depth. You got some young pieces there too. You got Malachi Moreno going to get some run early in the season, see what he can do. And then obviously we know the importance of what it would be. So definitely I'm not concerned about if he's there for the season or not. Am I frozen or?
No, it looks like we lost Jack.
Okay, so it's not me. I've been trying to look. Are you there, Jack?
There? Am I good?
Yeah,
you are back. Yeah,
I've been trying to look down at the feed, seeing if it's me.
Cool. Yeah.
Did you hear anything I said?
It's me. For some reason, my Wi-Fi says my Wi-Fi is going out. So just make sure it's text me or something if it's being weird or can you guys hear me right now?
I got you. Yeah, I've got your audio. I can see you too. You're moving,
but not my video.
No, I've got your video too.
Okay,
I've got.
All right. Well, then I'll just ramble and hopefully it all right. Hopefully it figures itself out today.
Definitely not used to you being the Wi-Fi.
Well, I guess we can kind of transition. Yeah, no kidding. It's like we're transitioning back to 2.5 years ago, back in the summer of hell that was. On that note, just the conversation with Andrija Jelavic and just kind of the when's he going to get on campus? What's the holdup? Why is he still not here? And just kind of the miscommunication, I think, is probably the best way to put it as to how we got to this point. And we're again entering the end of summer workouts, and he's still not here. Nothing has changed. Like I think that the absence of news has led to like this void where people just kind of fill things in it, hoping that there's going to be something different to, no news as an indicator that things are going poorly just because he's not physically here yet. But it's my understanding that his school year ended at the end of June, and that has been known from the beginning from Kentucky side of things. Where the hang up happened was with the once he finished his academic year, the expectation was that he'd be able to get the transcripts, everything would come in, crystal clear immediately, and then he'd be able to come in early July. There was a delay getting the transcripts of the paperwork figured out in that regard, and it's just an academic thing. They had the other kind of visas and the government stuff figured out. That there were some delays and hiccups with that, but they got that figured out in a pretty timely manner. So that they, figured things out in a timely manner, thinking that they would be still able to make it work for the summer workouts. But when the transcript part got delayed, it kind of pushed things toward the tail end of those workouts. And they said, well, if if it's already week 6, week 7 of us being here, he can't get into in-person classes with his teammates at this stage, thus can't participate on the floor with us. They could, do some conditioning things like that, but he couldn't be an encore participant with his teammates. And it got to that point where it was like, okay, well, they checked all the boxes right this second, and he could be here right now, but why rush to get him over here only to have him sit in a dorm by himself for the next 3 weeks while his teammates go back home for the rest of summer break before the fall semester starts. So I think that's just kind of been the hang up of, more of a logistics issue than anything to do with his academics, anything to do with his eligibility, anything to do with all of that stuff. So I know that his absence has led to, well, something's got to be wrong here. That's not the case. There's no concern whatsoever with Jelavic coming over, and there's actually just unbelievable amount of confidence internally about his status and him coming over in a timely manner. This has been the plan. Nothing has really shifted ever since the transcript holdup. Once it was kind of clear for them internally, like, hey, this isn't going to work for the summer workouts, let's punt to the fall semester. Now it's about, okay, do we bring him over next week? Do we bring him over a week before everybody else? So he can do his conditioning tests and, all of those things, so he can kind of have that easy transition once his teammates rejoin him. August 25th, I believe, is the start of the fall semester. So, that a few days beforehand is when his teammates will rejoin him as well. So now it's just about timing that up and making sure that overlap looks right, where he could be able to have the smoothest transition possible when his teammates join him. That's it. That is there's no conspiracy, there's no funny business, there's no it is everything is exactly going according to plan internally. It's just about time at this point. So do you have any leftover concern about his status, Shawn, or anything like that?
No, because I think we've kind of known that the situation with the summer closing, like you said, it wouldn't have made sense even if he could have got here for the last 10 days, right? The last 7 or 10 days, because now everybody's leaving campus. You come back here in a few weeks, you start the semester, you get back in the gym, and then you're not far from now, Jack, like a month or so, you're back in there starting your actual prep for the regular season and the college basketball season. So I think the only thing that would be concerning from this point moving forward is if there's like a holdup or delay on that everybody getting back. Then you kind of look at it and say, okay, now maybe we have an issue or something to be concerned about. But at this point, semester hasn't started. Guys are going to be leaving here for a little bit and then coming back. I'm not concerned. But if we get to that next checkpoint and then there's a delay, then I think maybe you kind of look at it. But I don't think Kentucky expects that to be the issue or anything at play there.
Yeah, and I think there's so much riding on him being a good player. And I think that may be the realization for BBN, just knowing how good he is and how much Mark Pope values him as, like, there's a chance that he starts the season. Like, he is that type of player for Kentucky. I think he's probably I probably think he's the most undervalued name, just because I think he's kind of out of sight, out of mind. I think that Jelavic is a player who, again, it sounds crazy and we don't know until we see him and we get our hands on him and know how he adapts. And like, that whole transition process is very real. And we kind of have to kind of put a pin in it until we see that. But I think the vision here is, for Pope specifically, is a kind of better version, healthy version of what we got, younger version of what we got from Andrew Carr. Like, I think that it's that role, that, kind of a stretch for, inside out, versatile, smart, savvy, veteran presence, unbelievably skilled, just high basketball IQ guy. I really do think that that's kind of the plan for Pope. So when you understand the value there, it adds to the pressure of, well, we got, if it has to work. We have to figure out a way to make this work. And it just kind of adds to the chaos and anxiety that fans just kind of have, understandably. And again, I think it's just we had a Croatian big that took until January to arrive, and that has fans in a frenzy. Totally different circumstances. I've said on this show before that a lot of Big Z's issues, many of them were self-inflicted, kind of added unnecessary speed bumps to his situation to force that delay to get to January, beyond just, when he committed, when he, tried starting the process. Like, everything was pushed back months, not just weeks. So I think,
and that's
once
the thing
we
with Jelavic.
overcome the Big Z trauma, we'll be fine.
Well, that's the thing with Jelavic, right? Like, this commitment, I'm not mistaken, was April, right? Is that when he committed? So, like, you had that different window of 2 to 3 months there where you already had a commitment. You already kind of had these things in place, this situation, kind of knowing, where he was coming from. Obviously, semester's ending, summer practices. Is he going to be here? Is he not? Start of a semester. So you had this window of time to kind of put everything together to plan. And I think that's the same window that Kentucky's working with, right now when it comes to his status and his availability. But when you look at this summer, you're talking about a team, Jack, that's not had two very important pieces to its front court available. And the chemistry, the camaraderie, everything that they've been able to build and establish, well, they're still missing two pieces that Mark Pope believes is going to make significant impacts in winning games in the SEC, winning games in the NCAA tournament.
They could start.
They could.
We could be talking Kentucky's two front court starters right now.
Yeah, and you've heard great things out of summer workouts and practices without two key pieces that are versatile pieces that change the way that you play regardless of which one's on the floor. They impact the game in different ways. So, like, to me, that's an exciting thing to have, that you already like the core that you have. And we know Colin Chandler missed some, and we know other things. So, like, you've had the normal, Oweh obviously in a boot today. Like, you've had those things play out, but you've also not been able to get a real look at what you have while still feeling really good about what you have currently. Like, that's the kind of the way I look at it, that when these guys are available, when he gets here, the competition level in practice is going to go to another level when both of them are out there.
And I've heard different things, and things that just not even necessarily didn't need to be reported because it was so insignificant in real time. But I heard, Jalen Lowe missed a practice or two, and Denzel Aberdeen missed a practice or two. That's just kind of the nature of the beast when you bring in, new fresh legs and you work them to death this summer, and you say, we're doing an install, we're working on conditioning, we're, establishing a foundation of physicality and things like that's one of the bigger storylines that have come out of this summer is, these guys are beating the hell out of each other. Well, when you kind of establish that type of culture and identity for this new brand, kind of making up for lost time for what Kentucky struggled with last season, you're going to get bumps and bruises and guys that, need to miss a day or two. So, like, that's why the Otega thing probably can, if that picture doesn't get, put out there publicly, like, there's a chance that none of us even know that, like, me saying that Jalen Lowe and Denzel Aberdeen have missed a couple practices on occasion, same exact situation. You got listening to this probably had no idea that was ever the case. I wouldn't have known about Otega if that picture didn't go, locally viral. So it's just kind of one of those, you got to understand the territory of where we are in the year, that they're gonna, with how Kentucky wants to play and understanding the depth issues that we saw last season, how important it is to just establish we got to have health. We got to have these guys healthy, whatever we can do to, if you're not feeling 100%, if you're feeling 98%, we'll hold you out and somebody else will take your place. And we'll, it's going to be like the season anyway, with a constant turnstile of guys in, out, anyway. So I think we got to understand the territory where things are and just not panic. Cause I think we're going into, outside of Jaden Quaintance, we're going into the fall, at full strength, feeling good, feeling healthy, confident about where things stand with this team health wise, instead of, like a Colin Chandler last year missing the entire, long stretch of training camp, going, he's really behind going into, actual fall practices. So I think we're in a good spot, Sean.
Yeah, you are, and nobody's going to like a boot, right? Regardless of what it is. But like when you look at this thing, Jack, when you roll up at the Dirt Bowl, you're going to get noticed, and it's not like anything's tried to be hidden here. Like you could have made it a couple of days, you go home, and then it's not a storyline if nobody sees it. But like I just kind of look at it like it's not something that I think that's gonna. I wouldn't expect it to be anything that drags out. But I mean, if it is something, it is early August. You're still a ways away from getting to the point to where you need to be ready to compete to play. But obviously, I worked camp with Otega Oweh just a couple of weeks ago, and he didn't have a boot on. So like we'll see. What comes the next little bit before they get back on campus. But, we talked about the guys like Jelavic not being here, Quaintance not being ready to roll yet. But when you look at this roster, Jack, I just feel significantly different about it because, yeah, you're missing guys. And, people talking about Kentucky being thin. And usually last year it was started thinning out as the season went along. It was injury, 2 or 3 guys out at a time at one point. Yeah, you're down 2 right now. But when I look at this roster, Jack, I just feel like this roster is more built to withstand that top to bottom. That when I look at guys that are on scholarship on this roster, that I feel confident that if they have to extend to a certain number, like if Malachi Moreno has to play impactful minutes early in the season, I have a confidence in Malachi Moreno to be able to go in and contribute and add whatever, if it's 4 or 5 points and 5 or 6 rebounds, impacting a shot here or there. Like I've got confidence in him because one, I've coached against him and I know what he's capable of, but I've watched his game grow and I know that he's good enough to compete on that stage. Now, would I rather have Jaden Quaintance out there at the beginning of it? Yeah, I think Jaden Quaintance is the more seasoned player with the impact to make the biggest impact for Kentucky right now. But if it has to be Malachi early getting minutes, I'm confident that Kentucky can win basketball games with that. Like that's where I stand in year 2 with Mark Pope from year 1, is I feel like that as you trickle down this roster, I think there are scholarship players that can slide in and play a very impactful role that still helps you win. And I think that's a great place to be in and be able to lay your head down at night, knowing you've got guys working their way back from injuries, guys still trying to get to campus, that it gives me a peace of mind knowing that we're going to get even better when those guys are here. But I also feel really damn good about what we have in the current moment.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'll feel a lot better when Jaden stops dunking and slides at the Dirt Bowl.
Yeah.
So, so kind of transitioning a little bit. So we're going to go into the Q&A portion where there's a lot of, rotation questions and, kind of hypotheticals and things like that we'll get into. But before that, a little note on kind of just the recruiting side of things with Tyran Stokes, #1 player in the country, making massive headlines. Again, just for a few things that has just really struck a nerve this week for BBN that we just kind of have to address and have to talk about. Tyran Stokes hosted a back to school bash at his hometown of Louisville. He was at Shawnee Park, giving away backpacks, inflatables and food and all the kind of kid fun bash things. Great thing, great local community thing for Tyron to do. Proud of him for doing that. Just a very cool event. In that event, he was asked by a reporter what he's looking for in a school, and he gave the following quote. Definitely development one, a good foundation, someone who is fans and puts their all into school, not just somebody who says, oh, we have a good football team or a good basketball team. I want to go somewhere where I can have a good time actually experiencing college, go to a nice football game, have a nice baseball team to go to, just experience school. And then this is the quote that, has lit the recruiting world on fire. And a school that's not going to duck the smoke. That's it. I don't like ducking smoke, so I want everybody on the schedule. If I could get North Carolina, Duke, anybody on the schedule, that's all I want. Understandably so, whether it's incorrect or not, Louisville fans took that and ran with it and said, North Carolina, Duke, those are 2 ACC schools. That must be who he must be referring to us if he's talking about North Carolina and Duke as potential opponents, because they are guaranteed opponents for the Cards. But the ducking smoke thing was, a couple weeks ago, Pat Kelsey had a press conference talking about just how the NCAA tournament situation unfolded where they, earn an 8 seed, and strength of schedule, obviously the bigger talking point with that of, hey, you played in a trash conference and didn't stack non-conference wins to back up, the top 10 AP poll or whatever you were going into, the postseason. There's a reason why you were number 8 seed. So Pat Kelsey kind of used that opportunity to say, well, that's why I scheduled, Kentucky, Arkansas, Indiana, Memphis, Tennessee, Baylor, Cincinnati in the non-conference. And in that conversation said, what I want to do is make sure that when we get there and the selection committee is looking at us, they know one thing: Louisville didn't duck the smoke. So Louisville fans understandably put 2 and 2 together and said, Tyran Stokes, card. Sorry about your luck, Kentucky. What they didn't understand and realize in real time is that duck smoke is not a phrase that was invented by Pat Kelsey yesterday. It's something that has been said for well over a decade. As far as I'm concerned, I've been hearing that phrase for a very long time. People ducking smoke, like that's a very normal thing that's been said. Oh, and by the way, Mark Pope also said it back in March, talking about the NCAA tournament and what the potential field would be, using that exact phrase of, if you want to come to Kentucky, you better not duck the smoke. So this is not a new development. This is a very normal, yes, I understand how a Louisville fan looking, grasping at straws for optimism in a recruitment that has nothing really has indicated that it's going Louisville's way in recent weeks. I get it. You need something to kind of latch onto and say, aha, we got our hometown hero. While also, folks, I think we need to remember that he left the city when he was in 3rd grade. And it's not like he moved to New Albany. He moved to San Diego. He couldn't have gone further away from the city that he talks about as his home, being the hometown hero, and coming and saving the day for the Louisville fan base that's looking for, their hometown hero to come save the program. He left once and he'll do it again. And it's not that big of a deal for the home aspect of it. It's not really his home. He's been away in California longer than he was actually in the city of Louisville. So yes, it's cool that he returned home and wants to give back because he does have a lot of family there, and not trying to discredit any of that. But it's not like the dude has grown up and has lived every single day in the city of Louisville and he's a foregone conclusion to stay home. He would be returning home after disappearing for, years upon years ago. So just something to keep in mind. Oh, and also I think another thing that kind of slid underneath flew under the radar a little bit with that whole event, the event that he gave that ducking smoke to, it was a Nike sponsored event. You weren't allowed to bring in competing apparel like Nike swooshes everywhere. The backpacks that they gave away, they had to be Nike backpacks. All of the, apparel and things, it had to be Nike apparel, because guess what? He's a Nike kid. He's a Nike athlete, and he's going to be a Nike athlete in college, and he's going to be a Nike athlete in the NBA. So the thing that worked for the Louisville fan base when it came to Michael Brown, the guy that they're raving and obsessing over because he had one dunk over Malachi Moreno. My goodness, we got to get over that guy. Michael Brown is a really good player outside of that stupid dunk at one random practice at a USA basketball training camp. I was there. I was impressed by the dunk, but I was more impressed by the other 98% of the things he did at that camp. Shut up about the dunk. Who cares? That dunk does not decide whether Michael Brown is a future all-star or not. He is a good player, but not because of that dunk. Anyway, what got Louisville Michael Brown is the Adidas connection. So you can't kind of have your cake and eat it too, where we're talking about Tyron Stokes. You got Michael Brown because Adidas fed you Michael Brown. And Tyron Stokes is a Nike athlete. We have to connect those dots and know that is going to, it's not the ultimate deciding factor, but it is one that absolutely plays in Nike school's favor, and especially the Kentucky Wildcats' favor. So my long rant is over. It's been something that's been very frustrating to me. Your thoughts on Tyron Stokes saying he wants to go to a school that is not afraid of the smoke?
I mean, I get where you can look at the schools that he mentions there, but it's also like two of the better programs with brands in college basketball, right? Like now if he,
it's placeholder names. Yes.
I mean, it's one of those things like he can't throw Kentucky in there. He's not going to say, I want to play against Kentucky. Like, then that's a different thing, because then you're like, well, you know what I mean? Like, you have to throw out other names. So I just think it was him making a statement and giving comments, and he rattled off two names and a phrase that we've heard a lot of people say, no, we don't want to duck the smoke. Like, but people look into things a ton. Like, Kentucky fans looking into it as well, right? Like, it's not just it's everything kind of looking at it. But I'm not ready to say that he's a Louisville Cardinal just because of comments made when it comes to that. And you're right, he left the city of Louisville a long, long time ago. It's not like it was last week or last year.
Yeah, and I don't want to, it's not saying that he won't end up at Louisville. Like, I just do think that there is a path for him to end up at Louisville, just like I thought there was a path for Michael Brown to end up at Alabama or another school that was pushing hard for him. There was a path for him to end up at Kentucky once upon a time. It didn't work out that way with who Kentucky ended up recruiting. But when you have apparel brands on your side vouching for you, pushing for you in your favor, not pushing you to a school, but steering, if you have a fork in the road where one is an Adidas prong and the other is a Nike prong, they're going to, do things to kind of guide you the other direction. Like, that's how it works, because these are $100 million deals. We're not talking about a stupid NIL check. We're talking about long-term investments that they want to make sure. And when we're talking about a 2026 class that is as weak as it is, and Nike has the golden child of the class, they're not just going to give that up because the kid wants to be, a hometown hero. Like, that's just not the case. So if you want to add more context to why I feel good about Kentucky's chances with Tyran Stokes, again, not a done deal, as there's still a long way to go. I just think Kentucky is positioned well for the number one player in the country. I talked a bunch about it last week, and just kind of explaining my thinking about kind of his approach to basketball and how he handles coaching, and just things I've heard behind the scenes. Go back to watch last week's show. There's a lot of good in-depth, thorough stuff there about Tyran Stokes. But yes, Tyran Stokes wants to go to a school that is not afraid to take on the smoke. They want to go up the chimney, as one John Morant once said. So we'll pay some bills real quickly, and then we'll kind of move on from there to go to the Q&A section. Club Blue is the official collective partner of the University of Kentucky. Club Blue was founded by UK fans strictly to support the NIL efforts at the University of Kentucky. Unlike most collectives, 100% of subscriber money and 100% of donor money goes directly to NIL. Club Blue charges no fees. Club Blue subscribers receive some amazing benefits like invitations to special events, meet and greets with UK athletes, signed merchandise, monthly giveaways, ticket giveaways, Club Blue merch, and more. Subscribe today at www.clubbluenil.com. You get to pick which sport you want to support when you sign up. Choose your sport and support with Club Blue. Also, appreciate our friends at Roback. Change the game with Roback, a proud partner of KSR. Get the best fit and the best feel with their incredibly comfortable activewear, from polos and quarter zips to shorts and Delta performance pants. You will look good and feel good with Roback. Use promo code KSR for 20% off your first purchase at roback.com. And new friend of the program and a personal friend of mine, just because I enjoy their products so much, Angel's Envy Distillery, located in the heart of downtown Louisville. It's a must-visit destination for bourbon enthusiasts. Immerse yourself in tours, tastings, and cocktail classes that engage every sense and learn to refine your palate. Open 7 days a week. Book your experience now. Disclaimer, must be 21 and older. Please drink responsibly. Note, minors are allowed on tours. Shawn, let's transition a little bit into our Q&A session. A ton of really, really good stuff on the board. Appreciate everybody that reached out there. Let's start with our friend Connor Rigg, because he's a very, very consistent on these segments whenever we do them. Name the starting 5 for the first game of March Madness for the Kentucky Wildcats. I think that's a good one because we're talking about what does the opening day roster look like, who's going to be available, who will be starting then. But I want to know your starting 5 for when the ball is tipped and there you are running for your life. You're a shooting star.
I hope we don't get with copyright with that.
I know. I nailed
You did nail that.
I nailed it.
All right, maybe let's work through this together here. Let's go ahead and say let's prioritize Jalen Lowe at point and Otega Oweh for sure. Interior wise, at that point of the season where it's win or go home, I fully expect Jaden Quaintance to be the piece. From there, you can go a lot of different ways, right? I'm a huge Mo Diabate fan and what he's going to bring to the mix with this team. So I think that you go with Mo Diabate there. From this point, see it go a lot of ways, but I'll go Denzel Aberdeen.
Man, I feel like I could really rock the boat with this. I'm gonna go. Hear me out. Jalen Lowe, Colin Chandler, Otega Oweh, Andrija Jelavic, Jaden Quaintance. I like that. I like that group.
But the thing is do you feel bad about either group? You know what I mean?
No, like Mo D, like you sit there and go, well, he has to play. I like that we're in that position where you go, well, you gotta play Aberdeen. You gotta play, you just go down the list. There's so many guys that you can trust in that moment, like winning DNA guys like Denzel Aberdeen and Mo Diabate. And I think that's probably going to kind of be the swing there because they have that tournament experience. Both of them been to Final Fours. So probably being a little ambitious and probably swap Mo for Jelavic and Colin Chandler for Aberdeen. But I think those other two guys are neck and neck at that position. We still got to see Jelavic, how he fits in and things like that. But I think the expectation is that's going to be the kind of impact piece that he's going to be.
And that's the other side of this too. Like, so we mentioned two different lineups there. So obviously we're talking some depth because if Colin Chandler moves into that lineup, then that pushes somebody out of mine out that we both still feel really good about. And this is where it comes in, and I've said this, I feel like I'm repeating myself this summer and I feel like I do this, but I pick these things that I just drill home. Last year it was talking about, who I thought was going to make impactful plays at certain points of the season and game-winning plays and things. But like this summer, it's more been about the guys that have been ingrained in programs that have had success, that have played roles, like Mo Diabate, right? Or Denzel Aberdeen on a national championship team, guys that didn't care to kind of do the dirty work, that it was guarding 90-plus feet or grabbing an offensive rebound, jumping into the stands in the SEC tournament like Mo Diabate did to save a possession and gets Alabama an extra basket or an extra opportunity to score. Those guys that have bought into roles at previous stops, Jack, I don't see them having issues to buy into roles here. And maybe it's not a starting role. Maybe one of those two by January is playing a role off the bench where they're playing starter minutes, but they're just coming in and changing the game with energy and making plays on the defensive end of the floor. So that's what I like the most about the roster that Pope has put together is when you look at this thing top to bottom, I think it's got flexibility. I think they've got, some durability when it comes to overcoming some injuries at spots too. We didn't even mention Brandon Garrison. I know we're watching that one closely to see how he goes, but if Jelavic and Quaintance are the two front court pieces, like I think it means Kentucky's really, really good.
Yeah, I totally agree. I like this question. Well, first, the second part from Connor Rigg was non-basketball. If you had to live in a TV show for 1 year, what would you choose?
What was that?
If you had to live in a TV show for 1 year, what would you choose?
In a TV show?
You live in a TV show.
Oh, God.
It's hard, right?
It's not easy. I'm thinking here.
I'm going to go Deal or No Deal Does that even still exist, or is it just reruns right now? I would live in that show and just do it every single night because I'm going to have entertainment value playing Deal or No Deal, but B, I know that I'm going to have a chance at $1 million every single night, and if we're talking about a year, I'm liking the pot of money. I may get the 1 cent one night, and I'll have to eat it every once in a while, but I'm going to get lucky on occasion, and those $200, $300, $500,000 cases I think are going to stack up pretty quickly. So Deal or No Deal, final answer.
God, the crazy thing, man, I don't even watch TV.
No, Steven said the Office. I know my way around, but do you though? Like, do you know just what the Hollywood setup of the Office is actually, or would you be able to find your way around Scranton? I think that's the difference.
That is true, because you just know. I mean, obviously, you know the Office space.
Steven says he knows. Steven says he knows Scranton. Oh, this is an underrated one from Mashburn. Cheers, because it's Boston, and you know me, I'm that guy when it comes to Boston, and also sitting around at a bar watching Boston sports and drinking beer sounds like a pretty awesome year, if you ask me.
I think I would pick Friends and just go back to a simpler time in life.
All right. I feel you. Parker, UK fan, NC says, who do you think the first loss will be against for this team? I think that's a really fun question. It's a crappy question because we're talking about who the first loss is going to come from. And I know there's a couple of Louisville fans in here that are definitely going to say that it's going to be on November 11th. But do you have any in mind?
Do we have a schedule graphic so we can go in order?
Not a graphic, but the order is that we know of right now.
Can't count the exhibitions, right?
Right. Ooh, I have a hot take for the exhibitions. I think we're going to beat Purdue in the exhibition and then lose to Georgetown. I think that's going to happen. I feel good about that.
I think that's a believable hot take.
I think Steven's pulling up for you right now.
I've got it here. I think Kentucky's going to beat Louisville. I do. I think they're going to beat Michigan State on a neutral floor. Maybe one of those two back-to-back, Carolina, Gonzaga, maybe.
I'd rather lose to Gonzaga, honestly.
Yeah, that's where I would put it, because I think back-to-back, obviously they're still going to – or we're still waiting on some stuff to be added here too, right? Mm-hmm. Or is this – yeah, because there's a week off there. Like I'm looking at that North Carolina Gonzaga stretch there of those two back-to-back. I think you could get one. And that's where Kentucky lost their first game last year, was in that stretch too, right? Was the Clemson game, and then you followed up and beat Gonzaga on the floor. So I think that's probably the week where you look at that tough Tuesday Friday. That's a quick turnaround.
Man, I just don't think North Carolina is going to be very good, and you can't lose to Caleb Wilson. Like you gotta beat Caleb Wilson, and I think that's going to be an emotionally invested game, and then I think they're going to have that Friday night slot is a weird one in Nashville. I'm going Gonzaga as your first loss.
And when you look at it, that should be an overwhelmingly large Kentucky crowd in Nashville. So it's essentially a home game, where Kentucky has not had a whole lot of success in recent years in that building outside of Otega Oweh.
Are there any areas where Kentucky's had a ton of success? Really? I feel like we have a stat for this for everything.
When it comes to injuries on the wrong end of it, that's been the thing. But yeah, there's definitely – I just don't see Louisville beating Kentucky this year. I don't see it. I get it. It's going to be one of those games that's in a weird spot in the calendar. Like I still can't believe that we're getting that game as early as we're getting it and on a Tuesday night. But I feel like that game, it's going to be the equivalent of last year's Duke game, where just the whole fan base and everybody's just kind of fired up for it. And then you go to Champions a week later. I mean, against the Michigan State team, obviously, that is more than capable of beating you. But I feel like that early on, I think that this team's going to know how to win basketball games. That I still feel like that stretch that we're talking about, Gonzaga, Carolina, is where it's going to happen. I don't think it'll be at Rupp. I would go Gonzaga as well.
Yeah, and somebody brought up that Indiana could be a trap game. I could see that, but at home with Rupp, I have a harder time believing that. I don't want it to be St. John's. I feel like St. John's is the best team that they will play up to that point, and will, obviously with the coaching, but like that's going to be the Denim. I don't know this. I'm just assuming that that's going to be the Denim jersey game. That's going to be just such an emotional game. And we saw, I don't want to say maybe Pope's worst, but we saw the emotional kind of side with the Cal head-to-head battle. I do kind of wonder how that's going to play with Pope, if that impacts him positively, negatively, how the moment kind of feels for him in that regard. So I feel like I would lean a loss in that St. John's game as well, but I really want that one. Just knowing the 30th anniversary of the 96 team and all that, that's going to be a really important game. I don't want the kind of the magic of that day to be, ruined by a loss, but, a lot of wins there on that schedule as well. Like I do think that Kentucky's going to be able to go through that schedule and win quite a bit of them. So, we'll see about that. A couple of Big Blue Savant, not a question, but sophomore Colin Chandler is a needle mover. I totally agree. I've heard really, really good things about him. I think he's taken a step up. He dealt with a little kind of nagging thing that took him out a week or two, but I do think that he's going to be a really, really, really high level difference maker for the Cats. Any hot takes? Do you have a hot take for this team? And Connor Rigg before had a list of them that I can read a couple of them to kind of get the gears turning for you while you think about a hot take with this roster. Jalen Lowe breaks Tyler Eulis's assist per game record of 7.0. Jasper Johnson makes 8 threes in a game this year. Denzel Aberdeen is second leading scorer. Colin Chandler averages 10 points a game. Otega Oweh is a first-team All-American. Jaden Quaintance averages over 3 blocks per game. Cam Williams has more games with 3+ threes made than Kobe Brea did last year. I don't think that's going to happen. Trent Noah scores 20 points in a game this year. I do think that's going to happen. Jelavic is starting by the end of the year. I do think that's a real possibility. Mohamed Diabate makes 30 threes a game in a game. I hope so. Throughout the year makes 30+ threes, and then Brandon Garrison averages the same amount of assists as Amari Williams did last year. I don't think that's going to happen. But anything jump out at you?
I don't even know if this is hot, but I just keep going back to when the SEC schedule came out and I saw the home and away, and mine is Kentucky goes undefeated at home in SEC play. I don't know how hot that is, but when you look at it, you got Florida, Georgia, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Missouri, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Vanderbilt. I feel like there are some tough games there, but I don't think that it's the murderer's row that you looked at a year ago with the SEC. Like there's no Auburn coming to Rupp Arena. There's no Alabama coming to Rupp Arena. I just look at it and I think that this is, if you get through Florida, I mean, obviously there's still some things there. At Tennessee, we know, but you've had success regular season, obviously, against Tennessee a year ago. So I think that this is a team that could do it. And if you do that, you build in some ground to work with on the road where you do have tough games. But I feel like that this is one where when I look at it, I could see this team running off undefeated, maybe losing one game at home in league play.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like the Colin Chandler 10 points a game. I do think that's going to happen. I really do believe in him. I do. I think he's going to have something to say by the start of the season that makes us go, is he the sixth man? If not starting, like, is he bringing it in a way where Pope can't help but keep him on the floor? Like, I think he's going to be that kind of player. Trent Noah, I've heard the same thing, like just kind of a guy that the numbers I've heard about him in catch and shoot situations this summer, Sean, are unbelievable. So for reference, Antonio Reeves, his final season, his final preseason going into the last year he was at Kentucky. He shot 75% on the gun on simple catch and shoot threes. The number that I've heard exceeds that for Trent Noah. That's a pretty high number.
I'll say this. Making shots, if you can make shots and you're not a significant liability on the glass and you can defend at a level that's not exposing you every single minute you're on the floor, you're going to find a way to play this year. And if Trent Noah becomes a knockdown shooter on a roster top to bottom, Jack, that I think that not that you're going to be hunting for shot makers, but I think you're going to need those guys at certain spots that can stretch it. And if maybe he's the guy at that spot that can play some three, maybe in a pinch, given we don't know what the interior is going to look like, maybe he slides, plays a little bit of four at times, depending on what the lineup. The thing is like you've got capable defenders across the board on this roster that you can throw in there and you feel really good about your team defensively. Trent Noah is also going to has an act to grab an offensive rebound or a defensive rebound for you at a key moment in the game. So if he shoots the ball well, Jack, I think that his value significantly climbs. You got me?
Yeah, I think he has the nose for the basketball. I think he is a rebounder. Like I think defense is the only kind of make or break thing for him because I think he's going to rebound. I think he's going to play tough, and I think he's going to make shots. So he's getting in good shape and adding that muscle. I think he's going to be a player. How many minutes? I think it's just kind of be with ebbs and flows of a normal basketball game, but he's going to have something to say about that as well. Old Doc Cat, what have you guys noticed in terms of how Pope carries himself and interacts with other coaches at all these events? I think there's a lot of respect there. I think they really respect his basketball mind. I think every coach that I've talked to about Pope has raved about his appreciation for this job. And I've talked to other coaches that, kind of flirted with the Kentucky job or, had their name thrown into the mix for the Kentucky job and asking about that, them about it in hindsight. They say, yes, it's an amazing job. All respect to the job that is not mine. Every single one of them said, I couldn't have done it the way Mark Pope does it and has embraced it. And like, it is his job. He was the man for the job. And hearing that from other respectable coaches and guys that are considered at the top of their craft, I think is pretty cool. I will say, I don't want to say it's like a level of jealousy, but there is kind of something to be said about Kentucky's payroll for this season and how much money they have invested in these guys and how much they had to spend on guys that would be seen as really good, well-paid NIL guys that got paid like superstars on this Kentucky roster just because they had it, just because they had the funds to get there. I think there's almost a level of, I can't believe you spent X number of dollars on this guy and this guy and this guy. And if you're going to spend as much as you did compared to my roster, that's not half of what your roster's value is. You better win it. You better win. You better go to a Final Four and you better win the whole thing. And I think I've kind of mentioned that story kind of sort of in passing before, but that was a direct conversation of, I'm happy for them. It's cool. It's a talented roster, but if they're going to invest that much in a roster, that's a championship cost roster. But do they have the talent? Do they have the star upside? Do they have those things that I maybe would have done a little bit differently? I would have added more shooting. I would have done this. I would have done that if I had the resources, but Pope has them. I don't. Hopefully he did right by them. So I think there's a level of jealousy, but a lot of respect about Pope and how he has done, especially in his first year, making history the way he has. Let's do a couple more of these. Rife David 01, Stokes, Holt, Thompson, Rippey, Williams, who is Kentucky in best shape with, according to your sources. I think Stokes definitely at the top. I think there's a grouping of Holt, Rippey, Thompson maybe slightly below that, but Tay Kinney, I think things have fallen off pretty substantially for. I wish I had the full list of recruits and on the top of my head, but I think we're looking at 3, maybe 4 high school signings, and I think they're kind of gauging where things stand with these centers, and they just hosted the international kid and just made a top 12 kit for top 12 list cut for another, and so I think they're just kind of doing the thing that we saw them do last year, where they're kicking the tires, seeing where things go, how things are trending and the traction with guys that they like. They have a list of, they had a list of 40 guys that they liked, offered 20 of them that they thought they had legitimate shots with, and now have that group down to 10-ish legitimate targets of, okay, now let's see if we can cut that down to 3 or 4 guys that fit what we do, fit our culture, fit our identity, and kind of how we're going to do things. So I think Tyran is the first kind of major domino to fall, and everything will kind of fall into place from there. Like, say you miss on Tyran, then you push all your chips in on Anthony Thompson, or something like that. I think it's going to be kind of they're going to sign 1 guard, 1 forwardy wing, and 1 big, and then if things work out where they're gaining traction with a reclass kid or somebody else, then you kind of just make it work. But I do think that they're well positioned in 2026, but the class just stinks overall. How do you pick and choose your favorites with that? You kind of add more talent with reclasses or maybe international kids. It's just a lot of kind of waiting and seeing after just a really kind of underwhelming spring and summer cycle for this 26 kids, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that you're right about Stokes being at the top and things. And I mean, we're still at that point here over the next few months as you get closer to that early signing period there, that you'll kind of have an idea of where Kentucky's at. We know that obviously the Kentucky brand under Mark Pope is established more than it was around this time last year, just because you've got a year of on-court exposure to kind of showcase what Mark Pope can do. And I think the more that he does with this team, Jack, and in year 2, I think the better it'll be for Kentucky moving forward and beyond just this 26 class.
Yeah, I'd say like an Ethan Taylor is definitely a name to watch. Cole Clower is an interesting one that I think, we'll see where things go with that. I think that's one they're, kicking the tires a little bit harder on. Bryson Howard, I think they really like and are, ramping things up with. But a lot of those guys, and just kind of that, we'll see kind of where things go with, the Christian Collins and like Jordan Smith. I don't think will end up at Kentucky. I think he's going to end up at Duke. But there's just kind of that next grouping of guys that I think they're just, they have their top of the top favorites headlined by Tyran Stokes, and then the Holt and the Rippey and those guys, and then everybody else is kind of like we'll see where things go with the visits, and tons of visits being scheduled right now and all that. So we're definitely in wait and see mode for right now, at least. Bagel Pilgrim says, would you rather take a kick into the throat from an angry mule, eat an entire mason jar of earthworms, or watch 1 segment of The View?
When we get to this point, God, they all sound terrible.
I don't know what word you're stuck on.
God. Read those again, please.
Take a kick to the throat from an angry mule, eat an entire mason jar of earthworms, watch 1 segment of The View. Obviously, it's The View. I mean,
It's The View, clearly.
I get that. I understand it's a hard watch at this day and age. I get it. But let's cut that BS one out, and let's focus on the real, put our eyes on the prize here. You got to go option 1 or 2. Take a kick to the throat from an angry mule or eat an entire mason jar of earthworms.
I don't get why the mule has to be angry. I mean, you're taking a kick to the throat regardless from the mule. It's probably not going to be good, but I can go at my own pace with the mason jar of earthworms.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Zimzam24. Trent Noah expectations. Is he Ansley 2.0 or do you expect more or less than that? Interesting kind of measuring stick. I do see more, but Ansley had a couple games where he won games for Kentucky, and I do think that Trent's going to have a similar approach and a similar impact in moments. And I do think he's going to have similar highs but more consistency than Ansley, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so Ansley had the benefit of playing a role that it was make shots, right? Like it was go in, make shots. Trent, to me, I think impacts the game in other areas a little more. Like Trent's going to be able to grab some rebounds. Like we saw Trent get in there last year and have some games, get his hand on the ball, keep a possession alive, get a defensive board, knock down a shot. I think Trent has a very strong basketball IQ. I think I've always thought that about Trent Noah. You could see it last year. And I think the benefit of having a year already in this program, in this system, I think helps him more. That I'd love to have Ansley on every single team that I had at Kentucky. But I feel like the Trent's got the benefit of year 1 under his belt, and now he gets a second year to kind of showcase where he is. And I think Trent also knows what he's got to do to get on the floor. And I think that's a very good thing to have in your corner.
Mm-hmm. One thing, so a couple of people brought up Arfan Diane. His head coach in high school at Iowa United Prep is Mark Pope's brother-in-law and the guy that introduced Mark Pope and Leanne Pope. So also keep that one in mind. That's definitely an underrated thing to keep in mind as we kind of navigate these options for the 7'1", 260-pound absolute mammoth of a human being. So that's one I'm keeping an eye on, but kind of just a top 12 at this point, not necessarily moving super quickly, but there's definitely a connection there that works in Kentucky's favor. Alpha Omega 33 says, will Pope platoon like Cal did in 2015? Your thoughts on that?
No, he won't. I don't think so. I think he's got a roster that can play a lot of guys, but I think when it comes down to it, Jack, I think the cream will still rise to the top when it comes to this team. And I think Pope will identify if it needs to be 10 guys that play. I don't think you're going to see a 5 in, 5 out type of deal. I think Pope's going to – obviously we know he's data-driven. So whatever the data suggests that he does with those 9 to 10 guys, I think is what he will do. But I don't think you're going to see here's 5, here's 5. Because if you go back to that year, Jack, until the very end of it, it was the same 5 at a lot of times. Like it was these 5 and then these 5s and then maybe you mixed it in winning moments. I think it's hard to establish kind of who you are in the closing moments of winning ball games if you don't go through it a rotation wise and knowing who it is at winning time.
Yeah. A couple questions about the rotation and how that will work. It's going to be fascinating. It really is. Like, how many guys when we enter March, Shawn? How deep is the rotation? How many players?
9.
That few?
I think 9. I think when it comes down to it, from just giving you the coaching side of this, the most difficult thing to do is stretch minutes. And when it comes to availability, because you're going to have guys that are just going to produce more than others. And if you get into that point of the season, Jack, and you're stretching 10, 11, now you're taking minutes from Otega. Is Otega Oweh going to be on the floor less? Is Jalen Lowe, who's going to eat up, I think, a ton of minutes at point guard just because of the impact that he's going to have? If Jaden Quaintance ends up being your best big, you're going to want him on the floor as much as possible. Denzel Aberdeen's going to play game-winning minutes. Mo Diabate, I think when it comes down to it, You want those names playing as much as possible while you're still throwing in Colin Chandler. You're still doing these other things. What is Jasper's role? Like, how does Jasper perform? Now, if you get to a situation and Jasper's just producing and Colin Chandler's producing and you know what Aberdeen's going to do, like, then you're in this, okay, what do we do here? But to me, I think the soft spot is you feel great about 9, but do I need to stretch it to 10 if foul trouble happens or somebody goes down with an ankle injury? That's what you want. But 9 to me is where the best teams, I think, in college basketball that win national championships have a solid 8-9 that just you feel great about every single night you go out there.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be tough. I mean, I think this training camp, this preseason fall, I think that is going to be some cutthroat. Like, once we get full strength, obviously minus Quaintance, but once Jelavic is there and you start kind of getting the vision with the front court and kind of get everything falling into place, I think it's going to be a absolute madhouse competition in the Joe Kraft Center. I wish that could be a fly on the wall in there. I think it's going to be some really awesome stuff. For the love of the game had a bunch of different ones that we'll kind of go one by one. We'll start wrapping this up here very shortly. Who throws down the most vicious dunk of the year from the guards? Otega Oweh, Colin Chandler, or Denzel Aberdeen? I'm going to go Colin Chandler here because I think we already got that from Oweh last year. Had a couple of massive ones, but had that one in transition, just filthy, absolute filthy dunk. I think it was on Texas A&M. I think he got his last year, and I think it's going to be Colin Chandler's time. We saw it in the blue-white scrimmage, but didn't get to see it in real game action. We got to see the, big shots and some of the, playmaking stuff from Colin Chandler, but we really didn't get to see the pure athleticism from him in year one. I think he's gonna be the guy. What's your vote?
I'm gonna go Oweh. I'm gonna go Otega Oweh again, just because I've seen it. That would be where I would go when it comes to throwing down poster. Obviously, Aberdeen's got one in him as well, but Oweh would be my pick.
If I compare Mo Diabate to Chuck Hayes, is that considered sacrilegious?
Chuck Hayes?
Mm-hmm.
Man, we're throwing it way back.
I feel like Mo has much more finesse to his game than I think fans realize. Things I've heard. Yeah.
I feel like Mo's got more of that, more movement.
More versatile. Mo in that La Familia scrimmage was guarding Andrew Harrison at the top of the key. He was guarding, he was guarding on ball 1 through 4 with some 5 possibilities as well. Some undersized 5 stuff. He is he's such a threat in transition and getting downhill, and there's just a lot more to his game, but mindset, maybe I think there's a lot there. I do think that there's just that gritty, tough, winning kind of DNA that Chuck Hayes had and what made him an all-time fan favorite in Lexington, that I do think that Mo has. That is a great question. Will we ever get an Alan Cutler No Filter podcast where you tell us all the shite going down the last few years of Cal? Probably. Not right time or place. We've gone through some of it, but I respect John Calipari far too much. And a lot of it is more so frustration about the people around him than John Calipari individually. Because I do love Cal, and I've said that several times. I can't wait for the day that he retires or ends his time in Arkansas and goes to a UCLA or something just non-threatening, and we can go back to loving the guy, because I do absolutely love him as a human and as a what he did for the program. So once that ugliness is kind of worn off, I absolutely believe there will be a time and place one day for all that stuff. Go to vacation beverage. I'll ask you that. What do you think?
My go-to vacation beverage?
Yeah.
I don't even know, man. I literally, you know me. You've been places with me what I drink.
Coke.
Yeah, literally Dr. Pepper Zero. Like,
Yeah. Oh, that's some good stuff. I like for a vacation beverage. There is it depends on the vibe. If it's a beach, give me all the fruity margaritas, citrusy, whatever. I Modelo's on the beach. I'm all for fitting the vibe of where I am. If it's, when I was up in Canada, it was, more Canadian flavored things, and just it depends on where we're going. I think that's a very tough question. But if you're just talking hey, I'm going to the beach, let's, have a beachy drink. I like a cranberry vodka. I like margarita. I like all that good stuff. I dabble. I enjoy it quite a bit. Who is your favorite guy from any era of Kentucky basketball that didn't quite make it? I've got a few: Antoine Barber, Derek Jasper. He got billied, and EJ Montgomery.
that's a good question. God, that's a really good question.
Who
You got one
that didn't quite make it?
Make it.
Derek Jasper is a good one. I really like Derek Jasper.
He was really good.
Didn't quite make it.
Dang, man, that's tough. I'm trying to figure out the
I was
definition.
rooting for the redemption arc with Ashton Hagans. I really was.
Yeah.
I liked Ashton a lot and knew he was going through some stuff personally and knew about that. And I was looking forward to watching him figure it out that offseason and kind of come back and have his, sorry, I messed up, let's go win a national championship. I really wanted Ashton to have his, and what was really sad was he never, the tournament got canceled, and it was just kind of his career, got a couple of cups of coffee in the NBA, but really, that was kind of it. We didn't get really a good bye because he got suspended for the regular season finale, and that was it. So I think that's a good one. I think Ashton could have been more. Anything from you yet?
I'm going to go a little bit more recent. I don't want to say that he didn't make it, but like I still feel like there was still a lot left in the tank for Chris Livingston.
That's a good one. That is a really good one.
Different. I mean, I still liked some things that he was able to do, but I just didn't feel like he ever really got it. You know what I mean? And I know a lot of it came down to, are you a 3 or are you a 4? But I feel like that's one of the more in the recent years that I look at to totally flip that question. The guys that did figure it out. I mean, I think Nick Richards is always going to be my favorite from just where he was.
His story is so awesome. So cool.
Like me and you sitting there for that final game, right? Like the final one that we got to see at Kentucky, and just knowing where he started to where he ended. So flipping that question, it'd be Nick Richards for me.
Yeah, that's cool. I love everything about Nick Richards. Jay Turn does the coaching staff or those that have watched practice have concerns about the team's shooting, or is that something that we've just assumed based on personnel and last year's numbers? I think this team will not have the Kobe Brea sniper. It will not have the guy who goes, Jasper's the closest to there is a night when he just has a guy. I've watched him with my own 2 eyes catch fire, and it's a thing of beauty, but I just think he's, going to have more growing pains to kind of get to that point where he builds that confidence to have the green light to get the volume that it would take to get to that point. So we'll see about him. He's probably the closest, but I think there are more, reliable shooting options. And I think Jelavic is going to be a more reliable shooting threat than, kind of go position by position. I think Brandon Garrison as a shooter is going to be better than he was last season. Infinitely better than, Amari Williams at that position from a perimeter perspective. So it's going to be more of a kind of a position by Jalen Lowe, I think could be a 35, 36, 37% 3-point shooter. Just go down the list. Otega should be better on paper. Colin Chandler should be better, kind of closer to what he was in March Madness than the overall overall season average. But yeah, I think there are more capable shooters on this roster without the absolute catch fire who's going to take a game over from deep type of player.
So the way that I kind of look at this is this team, I feel like this team is going to produce better offensive basketball from top to bottom than last year's team did, while not maybe having the guys that were just knockdown shooters that could, like Kobe Bray was the best shooter, obviously, on last year's team and would be on this year's team. You're not going to have that guy, but I think you're going to have an offensive system that's in place that's going to create more opportunities for better open threes. You might not be kicking it out to better shooters, but I think Kentucky's actually going to get better shots, which then in return could lead to you having a pretty efficient clip from 3-point range. So when I look at it like that, I think that could be something that plays out. Not that there's a concern about Kentucky's 3-point shooting, just because I think they're going to be better built to win basketball games this year than what they were a year ago. Like last year's team had to shoot the basketball well to win games. And I don't know if that's going to be the case this year. Like I think you're going to have Kentucky win some games, Jack, where they don't light it up from three because they're going to be able to touch other areas offensively and be able to impact the game in other ways.
Yeah, they're going to have a 4 for 14 day from three. And we're going to go, whatever. They won because, they won it with defense. They won it with, just go down the list of other things that this team does well. I think they're going to attack you in a lot of different ways. I think that's how.
Well, and the other thing about this is there a scenario where Kentucky's best shooters can't get on the floor because other guys just do more? Because with this team, Jack, there are multiple guys that can defend, that can rebound, that play with high energy, have great bodies, do all these things where you got some guys like Jasper's going to be able to shoot the basketball, but is Jasper going to be able to do the other things to impact winning right away to get the bulk of minutes? Because, Mark Pope's system thrives off guys being able to create space. But Jalen Lowe having a point guard that can get downhill and create some opportunities, I think is going to make life easier for everyone. But when you're talking Jasper, talked Trent earlier, I think there's a role there, but like is Trent going to be able to consistently do those other things to beat other guys out of minutes? Because those could be two of the better shooters on the team. Colin Chandler is a guy to watch that was shooting the ball really well at the end of the year last year that I think will shoot it well this year. He is athletically built to do some of those other things, that he could be the guy that we're talking about that gets the bulk of that run. So I don't have any issue. I don't have any concerns about it from a 3-point shooting perspective. I think this team's going to shoot it well enough, but I think they're going to be so much more efficient in other areas this year that they couldn't touch a year ago.
If we had to, cat enthusiasts, if we had to trade one player from our basketball team, player for our football team, who would it be and why is it Mo? Do you see us having we'll ask that next, but basketball for football. I think Otega Oweh, his brother, is a star pass rusher in the NFL, and I think he's obviously built to do something special. And if he were to continue football, I asked him about it last summer when he first got here about the football angle, and he was like, I just didn't like getting hit and taking hits and delivering hits, and it's just wanted to be a basketball kid, but he obviously had the talent to be a football star. So I'm going to go ahead and pencil that in. Do you think anybody else on the roster would fit in?
I mean, that's the one I would pencil in.
I think Mo Diabate would definitely, fit the mold. He'd be just a nasty edge rusher or something like that. His build just is big and, physical and muscular. I think he would be an absolute game wrecker on defense. Maybe like a tight end too. I think he'd be kind of a fascinating tight end going out for passes. Start wrapping this thing up. Do you see us having a definitive point guard on a roster, or will it be a point guard by committee when it goes to the bench? I think Aberdeen is that guy with a lot of by committee stuff. I do think that, there is a path to Colin Chandler. There is a path to an Otega Oweh. There's a path to a lot of these guys stepping in and kind of giving you a little bit something different. But I think it is going to be mostly by committee, but I think by name, it's by title, it's going to be Aberdeen.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Jalen Lowe is obviously established as the lead guard and will be there, but I think Aberdeen's the next guy there. And then from there, I think it's a collection of guys that you could see bring the ball up in a pinch if you need it. But I think that those two are probably the leading guys.
Cat fan 865 is Cam Williams closer to Kobe Brea or Ainsley Almanor? Ainsley for now. Cam is doing well, but kind of having some just frustrations, growing pains of kind of getting the transition right from, playing at the level of competition at Tulane to where he is now at Kentucky, playing alongside and against pros every single day in practice. He's been good within kind of an understanding of, hey, we gotta get things to click sooner rather than later, while also showing some awesome 3-and-D tools like the length and the, he's an athlete, he's a shot maker, he's got some, like, I brought it up, I think, in the last show. I think he's got some poor man's, like, Antonio Reeves to him. I think he does kind of have that. If you put him in position to succeed as a catch and shoot guy, where he's not putting the ball on the floor, where he's not asked to kind of create and do, kind of play with outside of himself, he can play within himself. I think he's going to be a very good player. He's going to be a very good system player. But anything about the, being a legitimate top level draft pick and all that stuff, he can get there. Definitely don't want to take that away from him. He's capable, he's talented, but it's just we got to slow down a little bit for some of these guys. Let's wrap up here. Blue Line 134, because we're at an hour and 26 minutes. I've had a blast, just kind of, making up for lost time after missing damn near a whole month in July. So we feel like we owe it to you guys for, giving you guys some extra stuff. But Blue Line 134 to wrap up. Which roster of each Cal, Tubby, and Patino while here does this year's compare to? Ooh. You think of the older guys, I'll think of the younger guys, and we'll meet in the middle. I'm going to say the 2015 Cal team, just because it was so much talent, it was so much depth, so much figuring out rotations to the point where we had to have the platoon conversation. It was like, who are you leaving out? Who, you got Derek Willis and Dominique Hawkins as your 14th, 12th and 13th guys. How, figure it out. I think it's going to be a similar conversation once we get everybody back to full strength. I don't think it's going to be executed the same way, but I do think it's going to be a similar vibe with the talent, the depth, and all those things put together. I don't know. Besides that, Tubby's group, that's an interesting one.
So the Tubby teams for me, I'm looking at, veteran leadership, returning players, the freshman class. I mean, you got good freshmen coming in, but you don't have, I don't think there's necessarily freshmen here that have to start. Like the 05 team where Rondo started, Randolph Morris got run. You had your younger, Ramel Bradley, those guys, but you also have those veteran pieces on your roster too that were Chuck Hayes, Kalina Azubuike, like those types of blend. That was a team that actually lost to Michigan State in double overtime.
Yeah.
I would lean more that one. I was actually kind of leaning the 98 team, just kind of from a blend of a lot of guys that could play. That you don't really. I don't really look at 98 and go, like, they had great players. I mean, the guys that, Nazir Muhammad obviously went on to have a successful NBA career. Jamal McGlure was a really good player here that played bench minutes that year. Obviously, we know Jeff Shepard and Wayne Turner. You had solid point guard play. Like, a lot of guys that were impactful, like Cameron Mills coming in and making shots that plays just a role. Like, you could see some of those things. Obviously, comparing them to a title team is obviously putting a lot on them on August 5th, but I would lean there. Maybe the middle of the good years, even the team that lost to UAB, Gerald Fitch, Eric Daniels, Cliff Hawkins. Like they had a lot of pieces that could do a lot of things, but they didn't really have like that dude that you just looked at and was like, yeah, that's the best player in college basketball. You had a lot of really good pieces and a lot of depth and a lot of experience. So I think those are the teams I would lean kind of more towards Tubby's time.
I feel like with Pitino, it's a cop out to do the 96 thing because of obvious comparisons. But like when you go down the list of minutes played, what each guy's role was and kind of how they were used and things like that, you had 11 guys finish the year averaging double figures in 10 technically averaging double figures in minutes, 11 total playing at least 9.3. Jared Prickett only played 5 games, but outside of that, everybody else had at least 34, 35 games under their belt. So how that team played, quick rotation, constantly go, I feel like that's kind of been instilled in Pope from the beginning with kind of running the, how Rick Pitino did and kind of passing it on to the next generation with his own flair and style. So I do think that that's a pretty solid answer, honestly, with Pope kind of bringing it back to his days and how what he saw the model of how to win a national championship, and he kind of recreated that with this roster. I think different, not a perfect carbon copy, but you get what I'm saying in terms of depth and talent and those sorts of things. So yeah, cool, a lot of fun. I really appreciate just all the questions and feedback and all those things to hear from BBN is a lot of fun, and good things to get off our chest to start the show with the Otega stuff, with the Jelavic stuff, and with the Tyran Stokes stuff. So go back if you missed that. Make sure you go listen to that. Again, go back to the week before for the Tyran Stokes stuff if you missed that. I thought that was a good conversation for us. So yeah, let's wrap this thing up, get out of here. I think we answered all the questions, and I think next week, Shawn, we're planning on kind of a with the kids leaving town, kind of a post-summer recap of what we've heard, what we've know about the guys, questions we have, concerns we have, glowing praise we have, just all the things that kind of put a bow on 8 weeks of summer workouts, and just kind of what our thoughts are about the team, entering kind of the next stage of this offseason. So Shawn, with that, let's wrap this thing up. Go subscribe to KSR Plus, where you can ask these types of questions and have these types of conversations with us. We absolutely have a blast with those guys, and hope you can join on the fun. Subscribe right here to the KSR YouTube channel. You saved Steven's job. Thank you for doing that. 50,000 subscribers is an awesome thing. So thank you to each and every one of you. You can find me on Twitter at Jack Pilgrim KSR. You can find Shawn right there, _ Coach S. Smith. Anything else you want to get off your chest? Or are we ready to get the heck out of here?
I think we're ready to roll.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you guys, and we will see you next time. Go Cats.